There's a number buried inside a database that almost no one outside professional tennis ever thinks to check. It updates every Monday. It shifts every week. And right now, it tells a story that the sport's biggest broadcasters haven't caught up to yet. The number is 190. Not a ranking. Not a score. Something quieter than both and far more dangerous to everyone sitting above it. To understand why, you need to understand how professional tennis actually works beneath the glamour of the Grand Slams and the primetime highlights. Because the WTA rankings aren't a scoreboard. They're a living ledger. Every point a player earns carries an invisible clock. 52 weeks. Then it vanishes. Which means every single week, the tour is simultaneously moving forward and expiring backward, and the players who understand that rhythm are the ones who climb without anyone noticing until it's already too late to stop them. Eala currently sits at number 28 in the world with 1,666 ranking points built across 18 counting results. 11 of those results are locked in Grand Slams and mandatory WTA 1000 events, immovable by design. But 7 of them are flexible. Replaceable. And that word replaceable is where this story quietly ignites. Because 7 results that can be replaced aren't a vulnerability for a player on the rise. They're leverage. Every expiring result is a door. And Alex is about to walk through 4 of them in rapid succession. Washington. Toronto. Cincinnati. New York. 4 tournaments. 4 chances. 1 closing window before the season resets and the math starts all over again. Washington arrives first, and most people will scroll past it without a second glance. It's not a 1000. It doesn't carry the prestige of a slam or the television coverage of the majors. But one match win there does something almost no analyst bothers to explain on broadcast television. It swaps out an aging spring result one with days left on its clock for a fresh result carrying a brand new 12-month shelf life. That's not a scoreboard victory. That's calendar management. The kind of invisible chess move that separates players who plateau from players who build. But Washington is only the first act. The real weight arrives in Canada and Ohio. Toronto and Cincinnati back-to-back WTA 1000 events on hardcourt, the surface where the US Open will eventually be decided. And here is where Alex's situation becomes something genuinely rare in the tour's arithmetic. She isn't sneaking into these draws anymore. She's seeded. Which means before a single serve is struck, before a single rally is played, points are already accumulating. 35 in Cincinnati from the bye alone. 25 more in Toronto simply for arriving as a player the draw now has to account for. 60 points before the first ball is tossed. And that's before wins enter the equation. 2 combined victories across Toronto and Cincinnati add roughly another 85 points on top of that baseline. Which means she could walk into New York approaching 1,750 points, and New York is where this story stops being a slow build and becomes something louder. The US Open. The tournament where a result from last year is already sitting on her ledger, silently counting down toward its expiration the moment this year's draw concludes. 1 win keeps her level. 2 wins nets a genuine 60-point gain. But if she catches fire, if she replicates the kind of run she put together at Wimbledon, where she reached the 4th round as part of a stretch that saw her win 12 of 16 matches, the math stops being incremental. A 4th round result in New York adds 150 points on top of what she's already accumulated. That pushes her total to somewhere just above 1,900. And 1,900 points doesn't just improve her ranking. It starts rearranging the entire upper tier of the women's game. Then comes the detail that almost nobody in the conversation around her has acknowledged yet. Right as the US Open closes in early September, a WTA 125 title from Guadalajara earned last autumn, quietly carried through the calendar, reaches its expiration date and disappears. For many players, that kind of loss would sting. For Alex, it barely registers. Because by that point her seeding has already unlocked a completely different tier of opportunity. Singapore. Beijing. Wuhan. A demanding autumn swing through Asia, and unlike last year's version of this same stretch, the points she'd be defending from that period don't even factor into her current 18 counting results. When they expire, they cost her nothing. That's an extraordinarily rare position for any professional athlete to occupy. A stretch of the calendar where fatigue is still a very real physical threat but carries 0 ranking consequence for losing. Pure asymmetric upside. Win and she climbs. Lose and the math barely flinches. But this is also where the story asks its most uncomfortable question. Because last year, this exact same stretch broke her. She ran all the way through late October, for tournaments deep into the Asian swing, and came away with a single match win across the entire period. It didn't make headlines. These things rarely do. It just looked like a player gradually slowing down, losing a step each week, until the momentum that had carried her through the summer was quietly gone. Is this the year she finds a different answer to that wall? Or does the same fatigue that swallowed her season last autumn come for it again? Nobody knows yet. Not the statisticians. Not the commentators. Not even the player herself, somewhere between now and October, working through the specific kind of exhaustion that a full professional season deposits deep in the body before anyone notices it on the surface. What we do know is the math sitting underneath all of it. Even the most conservative projection stripping out every hot streak, every favorable draw, every what-if has her finishing this season somewhere between 2,200 points. That's the floor. And 2,000 points, in the current landscape of the WTA rankings, is the precise neighborhood where the top 20 begins. Now look at who's actually living above her on that leaderboard right now. Leylah Fernandez at 25, defending over 1,000 points, a figure so large that a single bad tournament initiates a freefall. A player at 31 sitting on 750 points about to evaporate. Marie Buzkova at 21 carrying 700 points of defensive burden, like walking onto every court with an additional opponent already waiting. Clara Tauson exposed to 670 points hanging on by a thread. Emma Navarro with 400 at risk. And one name in that entire cluster defending a staggering 1,500 points more accumulated defensive weight than almost anyone outside the top 5 in the world. One early exit. One bad week. And that number becomes a landslide. If that landslide arrives while Alex is simultaneously stacking points across 2 continents, the projection stops being theoretical and starts becoming arithmetic. World number 19 isn't a fantasy anymore. It's a plausible date on the calendar. A quiet Tuesday somewhere in November. And even without the dramatic collapse scenario, even in the steady, undramatic, no-surprises version of the next 4 months, a top 24 finish by season's end carries consequences that extend well beyond 2026. Because top 24 means a seeded entry at the Australian Open. It means no dangerous, unseeded floater waiting in the first round. No coin flip start to January. It means she walks into 2027 with a foundation under her feet instead of uncertainty beneath them. Which brings everything back to that number. 190. The total points she needs to defend between now and year's end. While every player sitting above her on the leaderboard is white-knuckling a position they've spent years building, doing everything possible just to stand still, Alex is the only name in that entire cluster with almost nothing to lose and every reason to move forward. Open fields in professional tennis don't stay open for long. The tour is too deep. The competition too relentless. Someone always closes the gap. Someone always finds the runway before the window shuts. Which is exactly why the next 4 months matter so much. Washington is coming. Her first hardcourt event since March. The opening scene of a stretch that could quietly redefine not just her 2026, but the entire architecture of what follows it. Maybe she strings together wins in Cincinnati and vaults past a name that's been sitting comfortably above her for a year. Maybe New York throws something unexpected at her and she has to trust the Asian swing to carry the rest of the work. Maybe fatigue finds her again right when the calendar least allows for it. Or maybe the player carrying that 1,500-point burden stumbles precisely when Alex is climbing and the math does something no highlight reel can fully prepare you for. The version of this story nobody knows yet is the one that's about to be written in real time, every Monday, inside a rankings update almost no one outside tennis thinks to check. 190 points. That's not a stat to file away. That's the quietest competitive advantage in women's tennis right now, and the clock on it is already running.